All right, so I will call to order today's meeting of the Township of Cavan Monaghan, our regular council meeting at 1 o'clock on the dot. I will begin with wishing our mayor well. I know he's not feeling well today, and we wish him a quick recovery. I'm sure he's watching on. But I will begin with our land acknowledgement, and that we respectfully acknowledge that the Township of Cavan Monaghan is located on the Treaty 20 Missionagé territory and the territory of the Missionagé-Anishinaabe. We offer our gratitude to First Nations for their care for and teachings about these lands. May we honor those teachings. Well, first, I will look for an approval of today's agenda. Councillor Byrne, Councillor Nashoff, all in favor? So approved. I will look for a disclosure of any pecuniary interests or the general nature thereof. Seeing none, we will move on. There is no closed session today. So our first order of business is a delegation by Nancy Fisher, the project consultant, and Sandra Robertson, the manager of children's services for the city of Peterborough, Children Care Growth Plan 2023 to 2026. I don't know whether you got instructed on the microphone use, but it's all yours.
Oh, good. Well, thank you so much. I'm Sandra Robinson with the City of Peterborough, and with me today is Nancy Fisher, consultant that I've been working with. So thank you so much for the opportunity to present City's growth plan for 2023-2026. This plan was presented to the Greater Peterborough Joint Services Committee on March 14th. So if any of you were attending that meeting, and this is the second time hearing this presentation, my apologies. Hopefully you'll see some new information that we've included specific to Cavan Monaghan Township. Next slide. So the childcare and early years system in the city and county of Peterborough is a big system. It includes a number of licensed childcare agencies. So we have 440 or 4,400 spaces, licensed spaces across the city and county. They're operated by 59 different locations across the city and county. And there are 73 home childcare providers as well. This slide illustrates the operators that are operating in Cavan Monaghan. And one of our operators is here with us today from Compass Early Learning and Care. So there are 3 centers operating licensed facilities in this community. And in total, they're operating 333 spaces. So while it's a very large system, it's not quite large enough. It supports a wide range of children from 0 to 12. And currently there's about $13.3 million in core funding that supports childcare and early years in our communities. So in March of 2022, Ontario reached a $13.2 billion agreement with the federal government to support the implementation of the Canada-wide early learning and childcare system. The new system is really intended to lower childcare fees to an average of $10 a day by 2026, and also to improve access to childcare services for families regardless of where they live. So under the new agreement, the province is committed to building an additional 86,000 spaces across the province. And in Peterborough, we're being provided funding to build an additional 485 spaces by 2026. So it's worth noting that while our system supports children 0 to 12, this Canada-wide early learning and childcare, if you hear me say CWELC, that's the acronym we've been using, it only funds children 0 to 5. So in terms of reduced fees, those are only available to children under the age of 5. So financially, what does this mean for us? It means that we'll receive, in 2023, we received an additional $15.5 million in funding. And in 2024, we received an additional 17.8 in funding. So we'll continue to see year-over-year increases to support the implementation of this system until we reach 2026. So currently we're about halfway there. So when the province announced this in March of 22, a lot of people understood that $10 a day was happening right away and that parents accessing care at that point would be paying $10. In fact, it's a phased approach. And so we're about halfway there. And on average, fees are sitting right now about $21 a day for a preschooler to attend a licensed childcare program. Okay. So the ministry has established space targets for us to achieve each year. You can see from this slide that they've identified both school-based spaces as well as community-based spaces. They've set the target for each year. We didn't have the opportunity to set those targets ourselves. And in total, we have the 485 spaces. So we will receive funding to support both the ongoing operation of these spaces as well as some one-time startup funding that can be used to support the development of the spaces. We have requested, based on our local needs, an additional 162 spaces, but at this point, we've had no response on that additional request. Okay. So as part of the plan, we were required to identify priority neighborhoods. So we selected these neighborhoods using available data and existing needs within our communities. We looked at the 2021 census data for the age range 0 to 14. We looked at our existing childcare waitlist data by postal code. We looked at the location of existing childcare centers. And we also looked at the early development instrument data, which measures vulnerabilities of kindergarten students. So all of this together helped us identify the priority neighborhoods throughout the city and the county. So Cavan Monaghan is the second highest township proportion of childcare applications. So there's approximately 10% of the applications on our wait list, and our wait list currently sits at about 3,500. And so it's a sizable wait list. There's a significant need of families waiting and needing licensed childcare. Cavan Monaghan also has a similar volume of children as neighboring townships, but an increasing number of children on the childcare wait list. So we're seeing a continued growth. Since 2022, in August to August 2023, we've had significant year-over-year growth, specifically at Helping Hands, which is one of the programs that operates down in the village. They've had an increase to 138 children on their wait list. And with Compass Early Learning and Care, which operates in the school, they've had a significant increase of and they're up at 387 children on their wait list for that program. So it's a sizable wait list for the number of spaces that they're operating. So to date, we've had limited growth in the county areas. In 2023, we opened 90 new spaces. In 2024, we're on track to open another 100 spaces. And then in early 2025, we're anticipating another 49 that we've just become aware of and signed an agreement for. So based on the priority neighborhoods that have been identified in our plan and the work to date, we're now focusing our attention on the county and specifically in Cavan, Millbrook, and in Selwyn townships to find and locate secure available space where we can provide and build new childcare spaces. So we're really hopeful that in 2025 and 2026, we'll be in a position of being able to open some new spaces in this community. So there are a number of factors at play that lead to a successful implementation. One is sustainable funding. As I've mentioned, we do have some operating funding that is sustainable. The minor capital is one time. We've just heard, it was hot off the press end of last week, that there's been a new federal contribution and commitment of $1 billion to help with infrastructure. The cap that we had experienced prior to that announcement was $350,000 for 50 new spaces. So we're finding that the renovations are costing more than double that in order to build the childcare spaces that we need. And so we are pleased to have this new news. We'll have to find out how that rolls out locally in our community, but we're hopeful to see some of that money. We also know we need system collaboration and coordinated system planning, which we have been very fortunate to achieve through a well-established early years planning network that exists in our community. And we have a well-developed childcare expansion working group that has been working tirelessly on trying to find and develop new childcare spaces in our community. We also know that we need staffing. We need enough qualified, educated, skilled workforce to be able to meet the new demand. Through our calculations and our data, we're anticipating we'll need close to 100 staff to operate 485 new spaces. So, and then the last item is space, and this has been the biggest challenge for us, is trying to find suitable space. Childcare programs have fairly cumbersome legislation and regulations that require a number of very particular building code requirements that they have to meet. And so we need 35 square feet per child of indoor space. We need outdoor space that's adjacent to the building where the childcare is operating. And we need 60 square feet of outdoor space per child. So if we have a license of 49 children, that's a significant amount of outdoor space we need adjacent. So those are just a few of the constraints that we're working within as we're considering new spaces. Zoning has also come up as another challenge. Often the spaces that we're finding are not zoned for childcare. And so we're really focusing our efforts on understanding the process to change zoning. Is there an opportunity to change zoning if there's an opportunity to build childcare space in an unzoned or is a space zoned not for childcare? So we really do need help. We need help with the space and some of the costs associated with the renovations. We've been looking for new opportunities, for grants, for partners, for champions to work with our planning committee as we move forward. And really, we're really hopeful that you'll be able to partner with us and with our childcare expansion committee that as we sort of explore some of these new opportunities within communities. The other thing I wanted to mention is that we do work very collaboratively with Kawartha Primary School Board and PVNC. We know that there's a possibility of a new school in Millbrook. It's not been there, the application has not been approved at this point, but should that school be approved, it is in line, and we've planned for 77 new licensed childcare spaces in that school to operate as part of that school build. So we're really excited about that, and we look forward to hearing more about whether that application gets approved. Next one. So in terms of what do we have to lose, we figure it's about $3 million a year that we leave on the table of 100% funded money if we're unable to find the space to build these new spaces. It's a lost opportunity for children and families, but it's also a lost opportunity for our communities. We know through research that access to licensed childcare benefits children and families, but it also benefits the community by increasing the number of women in the workforce, decreasing the need for social assistance, and increasing the household income. Okay. So in terms of next steps, we're really looking to Kevin Monaghan for some help as we try and find some space options in your community. Where feasible and appropriate, we're hopeful that you'll support the development of community-based nonprofit childcare spaces in municipally owned land and buildings. Looking at surplus lands, is there an opportunity to use those and other emerging opportunities that might come forward in the next couple of years? We're also really asking that you support our expansion committee as we work with other partners, making those connections as I talked about regarding zoning. We've learned a lot about zoning through the city of Peterborough. We know each municipality is different when it comes to zoning, and so helping us make some of those connections with others in the community that are your planners and such that we can work with. And to really help us in supporting the work with other levels of government. So we've started to do some advocacy work with the federal and the provincial government, really, trying to resolve some of the implementation challenges that we've had around the timeliness of information coming to us, our workforce strategy as we think about further developing our workforce, and infrastructure support. So we've had a recent announcement that will help us, but there continues to be work to do on that regard. So, and that's it. Yep. So I will just thank you very much for this opportunity, and I'll open it up for any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mrs. Fisher, for that presentation. I guess my question is whether you were in conversations with the school board with regarding the school going in the future. It sounds like you've got that well at hand, so that's great news. And I will turn it over to council to have any questions. Mr. Byrne.
Through the chair, when I look at the numbers, even with the forecast for the next 3 or 4 years, you're already behind now hugely. The new numbers don't even look like they'll handle the load that you have now demand wise. And I understand that a lot of people put their names on more than one list, hoping it's kind of like the old age homes. You're just hoping for a slot to open up for you. So that's kind of ambiguous numbers, but I don't understand the rhetoric on the federal level when they're talking about this. It doesn't even look like it's making a dent in the need. So I know it's not your fault, but I hate the PR being spun the way it is. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those comments. Yes, the wait list is hefty. What we saw was an increase of about 1,200 children added to the wait list very shortly after the Canada-wide early learning was announced. So we saw a significant growth in a very short period of time. And one of the things families do have on that centralized waitlist, the opportunity to put their name on 10 different programs, which they do, but it's not a duplicated count. So we do know that there's a very small bit of duplication in that list and the numbers that we present in that family. So it could be a mom and a dad, both go in and put their child on the wait list separately and independently of one another. We try and remove those kind of duplications manually, but that does happen within the system. So it is a huge number to be staring down at when we only got 485 spaces. It was a disappointment, to be honest. One of probably the most immediate benefit was the reduction of fees for families. And so those who are able to access licensed care have certainly benefited from the lower fees, making, access to that care more affordable for their family. In many instances, the middle income families just weren't able to afford licensed childcare at all. And so it really pushed them out of that, those opportunities. But you're right, we've got a long way to go.
Any further questions, council members? I do have a question for you, Nancy. That's with regard to when you're looking for places, and if it's a new build or a green field, are you where does that capital come from? Like, is the funds that have been made available by the federal government, is that for capital costs, for operating costs, all of the above? And if it's capital, who actually does the build out of the gate? Like, do you partner with people to do it, or are you expecting somebody to build it and then come to you? Like, help me out with the process on that one, if you don't mind. Thank you.
No, great question. Thank you. So the province has provided $350,000 for every 50 new spaces that we're building as a minor capital grant. So what happens is we have an open application process where individuals who are interested in, it might be an existing operator who wants to expand their business, or it may be someone completely new who's interested in opening up licensed care. They can make application, and once that application is approved, so part of the application is identifying, do you have a space or do you need help finding a space? We have worked as a committee to really try and secure spaces so that as applications come in, we can pair those applications with the spaces that we've been able to secure, because in most cases, an existing childcare operator really struggles to find new space that's suitable, that they can operate in. Individuals that are new to the community sometimes have different options available to them, and they're looking at purchasing a house or a building or something of that nature. The ministry's been clear to date that the funding is minor capital in nature and not capital, and that it's only intended to support minor renovations. So that has been a stumbling block and a barrier to expansion, because what we're experiencing is a renovation for 49 children in an existing structure. So take a church as an example, that seems to have really good bones. It has classroom space. It's got a lot of the facilities you would need. It's still costing us about $850,000 to renovate that space. And so the operator put some money on the table. We have the $350,000 that we can contribute. And then the city has had to look within our own funding structures where we have some funding flexibilities and available money to help offset the difference. So this announcement from the federal government around the $1 billion in infrastructure will really go a long way in helping to support some of those costs. But to your point, it might be, an existing developer who says, oh, I'm going to develop a new housing complex and I can offer up some space in, on the main floor to develop childcare. And so it's really trying to find those partners that are interested in working alongside and who really feel strongly about the need to support, working families in our community and, building additional childcare spaces to support them so that they can work.
Thank you. I guess, Councilor Byrne, you got another question?
Through the chair, that $1 billion that you've thrown around a couple of times, is that Canada-wide? Is that Ontario specific?
Canada-wide, I believe, yes. Yeah, the announcement just came out on Thursday, so we haven't had time to sort of decipher it, and we'll wait to see. Yeah. So, yeah, it gets spread thin as you start to look at what it is province to province.
And Councilor Nashoff?
Hello? Can you give me an example then of a new facility that one could go to see, that example of something that's being built and funded? So if it's a new development that you were just discussing. Thanks.
Sure. So we currently have a renovation happening at Northminster Church on Sunset Boulevard in Peterborough. And so it was, a congregation who was dwindling. The church was looking for an opportunity to partner with someone in the community to utilize its space more extensively throughout the week. And so we were able to, look at that space, look at what it had to offer. Again, making sure that it had the outdoor playground space, the facility was large enough to accommodate, a large enough program. And I'm sure that they would be more than happy to, open their doors. They're working with Trent Childcare, a local operator, to develop that site. And so we committed the $350,000 of the one-time minor capital, some additional funding through our own city core funding or provincial core funding. And then the operator is supporting that financially as well. But if that was a site you were interested in seeing, we could most definitely line something up. Mm-hmm.
Thank you again, Nancy. Any further questions? No, then I'm looking for a receiver delegation. Councilor Nashoff, Councilor Byrne, all in favor? So received. Thank you very much. All right, moving on from that delegation, we'll be looking to receive or approve the minutes from our regular council meeting held March 18th, 2024. Councilor Nashoff, Councilor Byrne, all in favor? So approved. Next, we'll move on to the minutes of committees and boards. So I'll be looking for the Millbrook Valley Trails Advisory Committee held, well, I guess there's several here, June 26th, September 24th, October 23rd, November 27th, and January 22nd of 2024. As well as this is Sustainability Advisory Committee held September 26th. I'm going to move her. Thank you, Councilor Nashoff, Councilor Byrne. All received. Thank you very much. Next is the Kevin Monaghan Public Library Board meeting held February 20th. Looking to receive for information, Councilor Nashoff, Councilor Byrne, all in favor. Thank you very much. Which moves us on to reports. So our first report today is report from 2024-17 Watson Temporary Use Agreement for the Garden Suite. So I believe this one's coming back, but not Matt. So it's all yours.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. To you, members of council, members of the public, before you is Planning Report 2024-17 with a recommendation that bylaw number 2024-18 be approved to authorize the execution of a temporary use agreement between Michelle Watson and the Corporation of Township Kevin Monaghan. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Any questions from council? Seeing none, can we get an approval of this report? Councillor Nashoff, Councillor Eglinton, all in favor? So approved. Our next report is report 2024-18 Springville Heights, Woodville Properties, Inc. subdivision agreement. Salas?
Deputy Mayor Huntley, members of council, members of the public and staff. Planning report PEB 2024-18 is before you today with two recommendations. The first being that council recognize Down Lane and Davenport Road as the street names for streets A and B respectively in subdivision application 15T-21003. And secondly, that bylaw number 2024-19 be approved to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the subdivision agreement between Woodview Properties, Inc. and a corporation of the Township of Cavan-Monaghan with the insertion of final financial numbers and other minor edits authorized by the township solicitor and or CAO.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis. Any questions from council? Seeing none, I do actually have a question for you, Ms. Ellis, and that is, what about Street C? What name is Street C going to get in the subdivision?
To you, Deputy Mayor Huntley, members of council, members of the public, Street C is a continuation of Ashley Crescent.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ellis. That was my guess, but I just wanted to make sure. All right, seeing no other questions, can we get a approval of this report? Councillor Byrne, Councillor Nashoff, all in favor? So approved. Thank you very much. So our next report is for Public Works 2024-04, the tender of T-PW 24-01 slurry steel. Mr. Hutchinson.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Through you to council. Before you, we have Public Works Report 2024-04 with the recommendations regarding the Public Works slurry seal tender T-PW 24-01. The recommendations before you are as followed. Recommendation 1 is that council award the slurry seal tender T-PW 24-01 to Duncor Enterprises at the tender amount of $240,387.84. The total tender amount with or including net municipal HST is $244,618.67. And recommendation 2 is that council approve 10.2% contingency in the amount of $25,000 for this project. The total amount for approval, including the contingency, is $269,618.67. The slurry seal program was approved for a $300,000 budget in the 2024 capital budget. So with this tender amount, we have come in under budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hutchinson. Under budget's always good. So any questions from council? Councilor Byrne.
Through the chair, it's a little off topic, but close. Is there any word on when the half load season will end, seeing as how the frost this winter was fairly light? And I know there was an email sent to me about the road closures for the ramp on the 115 County Road 10. Just wondered what was happening there. I know it's not really on topic, but
through the deputy mayor to Councillor Byrne. First of all, on the half load, most communities are looking at lifting the half loads. It usually goes to the end of April. I think you've seen in the city of Forth that they've lifted it as of last week. We are looking to lift ours probably April 15th. It's kind of the date we've looked at mid-month. That's 2 weeks earlier than normal. And we're just watching to see that all the frost is out. That's generally the process. The notice that was sent to you was a notice from the consultant for the ministry, just saying that there's going to be partial closures at those out at the exit points off 115. I don't think it'll be noticeable, but it is a general notice just to let you know if you see some diversion detour of traffic, they're actually doing some improvements in that area.
Thank you, Mr. Hancock. Any other questions from council? Related or otherwise? Seeing none, I get to move over for the report. Councillor Nashov, Councillor Byrne, all in favor? Thank you very much. Our next report is Public Works again, 2024-05 tender TPW 2405 for a white midsize crew cab 4x4 pickup truck. And this goes to Jessica.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Before you, Public Works Report 2024-05. This is for the tender, white midsize crew cab 4x4 truck. And the recommendation for you, before you, is that council award the tender to Peterborough Chrysler Jeep Dodge at the lowest tender amount of $59,290. And with municipal HST, the total comes to $60,333.50. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Any questions? Councillor Byrne?
Through the chair, just out of curiosity, would this vehicle be in stock item or is that?
Yes, it is.
Any other questions from council? I guess one question, Jess, is once we receive the truck, I assume it goes for our typical branding and fitting and all sort of stuff. So what's that expected time frame for the truck to be on the road and ready?
Through you, the agreement in the tender says that they have till September 1st to deliver the truck. We will have a better idea once the tender has been awarded.
Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, I'll look for approval of this report. Councillor Nashov, Councillor Byrne, all in favor? So approved. Thank you very much. Last report for the day is Public Works 2024-06, property acquisition 78 King Street West. Mr. Hancock?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to council, this report, PW 2024-06, property acquisition 78 King Street, is for information for council. This was a property that council gave direction on to negotiate the purchase of. We have done so. We've completed the negotiation and we're presently investigating drilling a well on the property. So that is underway and included in the budget for this year. So we're presently just trying to get quotes or a well driller to do that. So that's our next move on the property, but it is for information.
Thank you, Mr. Hancock. Any questions from council? Councillor Byrne?
Through the chair, the test sites that you're gonna do for the well, what bore will they be? Will you be able to, if the test holes are drilled and the cost is expended there, will they be utilized later for actual pumping out of, or is this a two-step process that's kind of just exploratory?
To the deputy mayor, to Councillor Byrne, our decision on this was that we are going to drill a well and we're going to drill it of a permanent nature. So we're actually only going to do the one well, and it will be a usable well for the future because we're quite sure the water table's there and we're quite sure the water availability. So there is no test wells or anything of that nature being done.
Thank you, Mr. Hancock. Any further questions? No, we received this report for information then. Councillor Byrne, Councillor Nashov, all in favor? So approved. Thank you very much. All right, council committee verbal reports down the table.
Thank you through you, Chair. This is just a verbal report for Millbrook Valley Trails. At our most recent meeting last week, just kind of general discussions on our cleanup day, which is scheduled for May the 4th. And then otherwise, the Millbrook Valley Trails will be coming to council pursuant on them submitting the application. And that will be to discuss a reroute of the Baxter Creek Trail. And so, yeah, hopefully we'll be hearing from them at our next meeting. Otherwise, yeah, trails are looking great. And yeah, exciting new events being programmed for throughout the year for different user groups. Thanks.
Anybody, other council members? Nope. Councilor Edge.
There we go. On March the 21st, we had a municipal revitalization heritage advisory meeting. And we discussed the finances and we went over the thing that's to go on up at the train shed there. And we went over some proposed draft heritage budget stuff.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Byrne?
Through the chair, as part of Kawartha Conservation, the budget got finalized and the MOUs that we put in place with all the different townships are all being finalized. And I believe they're all signed off now. The other thing I would mention is we're still heavy into Maple Fest in the area with all the different people in the township that make a living off of maple syrup. And there's an event out on 7A Highway this Sunday coming up. And there's a few other family organizations that are running things for Maple Fest. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Byrne. See, the only other thing worthy of mentioning here, it's a big milestone for Joe the Barber. I believe it's his 80th birthday today, which is pretty fantastic. A prominent business in our community. Congratulations to Joe. Moving on then. Oh, sorry, I guess I have to receive our verbal reports. Councilor Ashoff, Councilor Byrne, all in favor? So received. Thank you very much. We have no general business. We have no correspondence for information. I don't believe we have any correspondence for action, which moves us into bylaws. Oh, we have two bylaws for approval. So I'll read them out. That bylaw number 2024-18 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a temporary use agreement between Michelle Watson and the Corporation of the Township of Cavan Monaghan, and bylaw 2024-19 be a bylaw to authorize the execution of a subdivision agreement between Woodview Properties, the subdivider, and the Corporation of the Township of Cavan Monaghan. The municipality be read a first, second, and third time and passed on the second day of April, signed by the mayor, the clerk, and the corporate seal attached. Part approver, Councilor Ashoff, Councilor Byrne, all in favor? So approved. Thank you very much. We have no unfinished business. Do I have any notices of motion today? Seeing none, then I'll move on to the confirming bylaw, which is that bylaw 2024-20 be a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the meeting held April 2nd, 2024, be read a first, second, and third time and passed on the second day of April, signed by the mayor, the clerk, and the corporate seal attached. Councilor Ashoff, Councilor Byrne, all in favor? So approved. Look for an adjournment. Councilor Ashoff, Councilor Byrne, all in favor? So adjourned. I'll read the upcoming meetings events. So we have the downtown Millbrook Downtown BIA Board of Management meeting on Thursday, April 11th at 10 a.m. or at 8 a.m. Regular councilor meeting Monday, April 15th, 2024 at 1 p.m. The Cavan Monaghan Public Library Board meeting Tuesday, April 16th at 7 p.m. The Millbrook Valley Trails Advisory Committee on April 22nd at 4 p.m. The next regular councilor meeting after that is on May the 6th at 1 p.m. And after that, the regular council meeting of May the 21st at 1 p.m. Thank you, everybody.